Good news, everyone. Affirmative action is finally going to die. It is not dead yet, but it is going to be dead. And, well, we should rejoice. And I thought I'd rejoice by starting off by dancing on the grave of Vox.com, because screw them. And as you can see here, this is a video they did a while ago trying to say that affirmative action or positive discrimination is good. This is, of course, that if you're white, get out, none of you here. And, of course, this also affected Asians, as they have here in a Harvard case. And they're like, oh, what we got wrong about affirmative action? And affirmative action is good, we swear. As you can see by the dislikes, went down very well. People very happy with discriminating against people because of their skin tone. But if we go to this newest article on Vox.com, and again, I have to use them as a source because I know they're seething and coping as they write this, we can have a look. The Supreme Court will hear two cases that are likely to end affirmative action. The Supreme Court announced on Monday that it will hear students for fair admissions versus president and fellows of Harvard College, and students for fair admissions versus University of North Carolina, two cases that present an existential threat to affirmative action in university admissions. So these are two cases going to the Supreme Court that have been bumbling around. They're finally getting there. And with all the disappointment some people have in the justices, the ones that Trump has put in have been firm, so it is going to be dead. These cases are the culmination of a years-long strategy by conservative activists, and by one activist in particular, to win a court decision invalidating affirmative action. The president of Students for Fair Admissions, the lead plaintiff in the Harvard and UNC cases. But he's not a student at all, they say, as if this is bad or unexpected. The guy leading the legal cases, funnily enough, isn't a law student.
Wow.
He's a lawyer instead. It is Edward Blum, a former stockbroker who was also the driving force behind several other lawsuits asking the courts to expand the powers and influence of white people. That's how Vox word it. He's a white supremacist. He's a white nationalist. And that's why he doesn't want racial discrimination in the colleges. You may wonder what the hell they're referring to. They did provide a handy link, so I thought I'd go and check it out just for a side note real quick. So this is another article here from Think Progress. Yes, progress never ends, does it? And this has nothing to do with race whatsoever. I mean, they mention in here the case they're referencing and the fact that he's definitely a white supremacist here. Under the 14th Amendment, states are allocated seats in the United States House of Representatives by counting the whole number of persons in each state. Thus, non-voters, including those who are legally ineligible to vote, still count in determining how many seats a house gets. And, of course, well, this is unfair because they're not voters or even citizens in many of these cases. So why should they count for how we allocate the seats? So that makes him a what? That's why they're calling him like a white rights activist. Okay, it's nothing to do with being white. Could be any race, but whatever.
Well, it's funny how white rights activist is negative, but black rights activist is positive in their framing as well. But also, it reminds me a lot with the whole difference between women's rights activists and men's rights activists. It's because they've stigmatized one of those groups.
But it raises a good point. Why were there black rights activists? Because they were needed. There was systemic discrimination against black people in the law. And, well, they now label this guy a white rights activist. Why is that? Because we have systemic discrimination in the law against white people. If we go back to the Vox article, this is what we're talking about with affirmative action. It's not only whites either, of course, it is also Asians as well. But they say in here, the two cases are also the first challenge to race-conscious university admissions. That's a very buttered-up way of putting it, isn't it? Yeah. It's not racial discrimination, it's race-conscious.
Not racist university admissions, it's race-conscious.
Race-conscious. Yeah, the Klan.
No,
they're not racist, they're race-conscious.
Look, when we segregated the water fountains, we weren't being racist, we were just being race-conscious, you know? I hate that.
You ever interact with, like, or watch interviews with, like, white supremacists, and they're like, well, why do you hate people so much? And they're like, I don't hate anyone, I just love my race so much. That's what this comes off to me as, like, it's just, you really want to butter up what you're doing, don't you? So, they say in here, the race-conscious university admissions program. They want to shut that down because it's finally reached the courts since Fisher versus University of Texas at Austin in 2016, which imposed strict limits on affirmative action programs but did not forbid them entirely. So this was a weird case. The court that will decide these cases looks very different from the one that considered affirmative action in 2016. Fisher was a 4-3 decision, because Justice Antonin Scalia died several months before Fisher was handed down, and Justice Elena Kagan was recused. The fourth justice majority, moreover, included retired Justice Anthony Kennedy and the now late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So I love how they're just laying out here. the civil rights motion here, this court case, which was about please don't discriminate me because of my race, that piece of civil rights, let's say, legal progression was destroyed by the Democrats, the Democratic justices. Just Fox writing it out there as if, okay, let's just move on. No, you should be named and shamed for that. You should feel some embarrassment for doing such a thing, and for being proud of it as well. Scalia, Kennedy, and Ginsburg have since been replaced by 3 reliable conservatives: Justice Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett.
I don't know. The Republicans tend not to consider them conservatives.
This is the, let's say, hesitancy on them because of what happened with Trump and whatnot, and I get that. But on this, you can see Vox being incredibly scared about this because, well, they are right to be. These people at least have a consistent standard on the issue of racial discrimination, which is bad. Not the Vox opinion, which is good as long as it's for us. So, barring any extraordinary surprise from at least 2 members of the court's 6-3 conservative majority, affirmative action is probably doomed. Thank Christ. After Fisher, universities may only make very limited use of race in their admissions process, they write. As a lower court that upheld Harvard's admissions program explained, a student on the border between admissions and rejection may be tipped into the pool of accepted applicants for a variety of reasons. Oh, so this is the very, we have a noble reason for the racial discrimination. Oh, what is it? So what are the outstanding reasons that you could be tipped over? Including, quote, outstanding and unusual intellectual ability, unusual appealing personal qualities, outstanding capacity for leadership, creative ability, athletic ability, legacy status, geographic, ethnic, or economic factors. And of course, the complaint being the ethnic part. You're just saying, I'm not allowed in because you've got too many whites or too many Asians. In practice, Vox writes, this means that if 2 equally extraordinary applicants apply to Harvard, but one of them is white and the other is Latino, the Latino student is more likely to be admitted unless the white applicant has some other factor in their favor. So just open discrimination. Right, this is why it's bad, Vox, because you shouldn't be allowed to do that. I mean, the Civil Rights Act says you shouldn't be allowed to do that. The Harvard plaintiffs argue that even this limited consideration of race in admissions is illegal. Big shock. They're upset that you said you're the wrong race, get out. The funny thing, of course, being the Harvard case centered around Asian students. I mentioned earlier that there was personality traits they could discriminate on. The Harvard case mainly focuses around the fact that the applicants were Asians and the assessors just assessed that Asians weren't very interesting and therefore get out because it helps fit with the racial quotas they want as well. A lot of things to say there. The Constitution generally views any policy that draws distinctions based on race as highly suspect, and a federal law, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act 1964, I mean, this is what I'm getting at. We have to go back to the Civil Rights Act to show that these people are wrong because they are in breach of the Civil Rights Act. I mean, this is reality. This is not, oh, what if they did this to white people? They are. What if they did this to it? They are. That is what is going on. Imposes the same restrictions on private universities such as Harvard, and that the Constitution applies to public universities with affirmative action programs. Nevertheless, in Gunther versus Bollinger, the court held that the social benefits of diversity justify allowing universities to take a limited account of race when deciding who to admit as students. Weird. Quote, numerous studies show that student body diversity promotes learning outcomes and better prepares students for an increasingly diverse workforce and society, and better prepares them as professionals, the court explained.
Yeah.
The argument that we should be able to racially discriminate because we want more diversity on campus to prepare you for the changes that are to come.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually quite a lot contained in this specifically for universities. So I remember when I was applying years and years ago, one of the things which all of the university league tables seem to take into account, particularly the ones from more left-wing publications, but all of them generally, is the diversity of the student body, because it was generally assumed that the more diverse and international and so on, the more sort of vibrant environment it was, because there's different cultures, there's more sort of cultural mixing and all this, that and the other. And so, of course, universities that want to get scored highly on the league tables will, wherever they can, try to increase the diversity in their admissions in order to boost those statistics, because that's just one of the metrics that they're ranked on.
Sure, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about directly discriminating against applicants.
Oh, yeah,
because
absolutely.
You want to do that.
Sorry, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying I understand why they do this. The system is full of perverse incentives.
But the weird argument there, that it will increase the learning outcomes. Basically, it will make the students smarter and more knowledgeable if we discriminate against the white and Asians. Right, okay, well, let's talk about racial profiling and crime. Should we? It works. Should we do that? No. There's a reason it's illegal. It's because, okay, that's a morally unacceptable thing to do. And yet, with universities, the open left-wing position is, no, it's right to do here. Why? Because it doesn't go against the groups we want it to. Conservative judges typically believe that the collective benefit society gains from having more diverse campuses must bow to the individual interests of college applicants. And given the Supreme Court's 6-3 divide, that conservative viewpoint is likely to prevail. Thank Christ. Again, this is why I read Vox, because I know people wonder about why do we use a lot of leftist outlets. It's because you want to get their perspective, and their perspective is just openly insane.
Yeah.
They're like, yes, did you know the conservatives value the individual? They don't think you should be discriminated against? Yeah. Yeah, it's why the good guys in this situation, and not you, who is just like, well, for collective benefit, we must kick out the white ones.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just mad. And it's such a strange hill for Vox to die on, which is down with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, but go for it. Why not? If we go to the next link, we can take a look at the Harvard case as mentioned. And as you can see, they mentioned the fact that it's primarily Asians in this particular one who were effective. And I wanted to mention, because it's a great video and he's a great guy, frankly, John Stossel's video on this topic. So we go to the next link here. This is a great video. We're only going to play a small clip, but go and check out the full thing, quite frankly, because I just really like John Stossel. I think he's a good guy. And let's play them talking about why they did this.
If you only look at grades and test scores, it looks like a lot of discrimination against Asians.
Economist Harry Holzer, who went to Harvard, defends the school.
Asians are not interesting? They don't have interesting qualities?
But the personal ratings reflect a wide range of characteristics. Now, it's possible. It's possible that some of that is anti-Asian bias, but you certainly can't prove that.
Oh, I don't think they're discriminating against Asians, but I assume they're discriminating for blacks and Latinos because there's been a history of discrimination.
I wouldn't label it discrimination. I would label it as leveling the playing field. I mean,
isn't that discrimination?
No, it's race-conscious assistance.
The right path out of the history of discrimination against individuals based on race is not more discrimination based on race. I have 3 kids, and I'll be damned if I'm going to not fight very, very hard to make sure that they don't get treated as second-class citizens in the land in which they were born.
I mean, that's the divide here. That is the case. I mean, this is why I'm so worked up about it and why I think there should be a focus on it. Is because, well, it is just such a moral thing to do. And also, it's such an easy win to hit the left on. I mean, you can see that guy there trying to defend the progressive position and being like, again, it's race-conscious decisions. It's not racism, it's race-conscious. I'm not a member of the racist party. I'm a member of the race-conscious party. It's ridiculous. But then the Asian guy, who is the representative in the Harvard case for the Asian students, well, he actually sued, I think it was the city of San Francisco back in the day, for discriminating against him for being Asian, and he won.
Wow.
So now he is taking this all the way to Supreme Court, and it will be coming up.
Good.
And likely he will win and get justice for those students as well. So that's fantastic. The strange thing, of course, is, well, how do the public feel about this? When we go to the next link, there is some Pew polling on the positive discrimination. And as you can see here, they label it that most Americans, psychologists, shouldn't do this. It is a ridiculous level of consensus. Like, not 50% of the public think, this is a bit wrong. No. If we can scroll down, John, you can find some graphs in there, hopefully. And it's 73%. I think it's, 73% of adults disapprove. They do not approve of racial discrimination for colleges.
Yeah, and 20% say it should be a minor factor, and only 7% say it should be a major factor. So I presume that's Fox's readers.
Yeah, but it's just the fact that you've got such vast agreement on this topic. I mean, this is not much of a divide. I mean, even along partisan lines, you've got majorities in both camps there saying that you shouldn't be doing it. But the funny thing, of course, being that, well, the support does just about double when you're talking about the different lines there. You've got 4 to 7% of Republicans saying that maybe, and yet you've got 10 and 24% there of Democrats saying, well, you should, or it should be a major factor. I mean, it's that's what it is.
Ironically, of all of the groups there, Asians are most likely to say it should be considered as a factor.
Yeah, weird one. There is a question there about how they define Asian
that's major
in the
factor.
American context. But the funny thing, of course, being as well that, well, it's so unpopular. I mean, 73% unpopularity. Do not do this. No one with any brains would touch this.
Yeah, exactly.
So Joe Biden picked it up and went, I'm going to run with that. So if we go to the next link, we can see, of course, Biden's approval ratings, which are trying to match those numbers of unpopularity. I think it's 39% now. Good job, bro. So, of course, he's defending this. We can go to the next link. You can see his administration doing everything they can to defend racial discrimination because, well, it's our kind.
Yeah, well, who cares what the people want?
So this is Biden's Solicitor General, Elizabeth Prelogar. And Ms. Prelogar issued a brief in which she urged the Supreme Court not to hear the lawsuit against Harvard University that seeks to have the use of race in college applications overturned. She didn't even want them to hear it.
Wow.
Shouldn't even discuss it. Just let it die. Shouldn't be talked about. Biden's administration in February also withdrew an almost identical suit by the Justice Department it had against Yale University. And that's a funny one because Donald Trump's administration started that. He went to the Justice Department and said, look, they're discriminating against Asians in Yale. Please go after them. And then Biden's got in and immediately killed that case because it's not done by a private individual. If we go to the next link as well, we can also see the press secretary, Psaki, over here, also defending the same situation. And this clip is amazing, and I'm just going to play it in full because I don't know why I'm surprised by this, but I still just can't get over that this is just open and normal. Let's play.
Should race be a factor in college admissions?
Well, this is, I think, in relation, I would expect, to the announcement by the Supreme Court about the decision to take up the affirmative action case this morning. While we're not going to comment on the litigation or for those questions, of course, the Department of Justice, we strongly believe this administration in the benefits of diversity in higher education, and we take very seriously our commitment to advancing equity and equal opportunity for historically underserved populations. That's why on day one, the president signed an executive order launching an ambitious whole-of-government response to center equity throughout the government's work. Throughout the Department of Education, the administration has provided historic investments and support for historically Black colleges and universities, tribal colleges and universities, and minority-serving institutions, such as Hispanic-serving institutions, including nearly $21 billion in cumulative support. And we have moved swiftly to protect student civil rights and equal opportunity, including by issuing guidance about schools' obligations to investigate and address claims of discrimination and harassment. So, of course, the Department of Justice, they can speak to their view on the litigation.
Just insane. So the guy asks, do you think that race should be part of the admissions? She says basically yes. It's the first part of the statement. Then she doubles down and says, don't worry, we also discriminate in our funding by the federal level. Also, number 3, we want them to investigate discrimination, but also we have shut down the Justice Department doing exactly that. Right. You want them to investigate discrimination, my arse. And maybe you don't see a problem with this. Maybe you're like, wow, it's just on college campuses, bro. Is it though? So, there's also Joe Biden trying to go full Zimbabwe.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought I'd mention this because this is, I mean, it's not funny, but at the same time, it is really funny in the sense of what a lunatic you have to be to try and do a thing. So, quotes from here. Biden's team is poised to hand out billions of dollars to what it misleadingly labels as socially disadvantaged farmers, restaurateurs, and other business owners hurt by the lockdowns. The money will start flowing to them in early June, provided they don't have white skin. That's the condition. This is okay. We're gonna go to the farmers and do Zimbabwe, are we? Biden's America Rescue Plan defines socially disadvantaged based on skin color and ancestry, not on the hardships faced by an individual. Blacks, American Indians, Alaskan Natives, Hispanics, and Pacific Islanders are included. One group is not whites, the author writes here. Although she has, of course, missed out. Also Asians. Asians are also not part of this group. They are also not allowed to run the farms in future. One of the Midwestern farmers is suing, Adam Faust. He was born with spina bifida and has 2 prosthetic legs. He manages to milk 70 cows a day and grows 200 acres worth of feed crops. I mean, just amazing worker.
Yeah.
Great guy. He is in debt, but he doesn't qualify for forgiveness under the American Rescue Plan because of his skin color.
Yep, welcome to racist America.
But also, we're going to go full Zimbabwe. Like, we have these productive white farmers, but also they're white. So let's just not, let's just cut them.
It's even worse than that because, like, it's not like these farmers aren't paying tax. They're paying a huge amount of tax to the government on the understanding that it will be used in their best interest. And all the government is doing is taking the money from everyone, but also from these white farmers, and giving it to anyone provided they're not white or Asian.
Sure, but also just the aspect of...
No, but this is this is really important. It's a wealth redistribution plan based on race. It's not just they're discriminating from race. They are massively redistributing the entire wealth of the citizenry based on the race of the citizens.
Zimbabwe. Yeah. Exactly the same logic. But the thing being that, where do you want to do this as well? It's all fun and games when you're doing it on college campuses, because no one really gives a crap about college campuses. Let's put it that way. You're going to do it with your food system, are you? You're going to do it with where the food is grown. I'm sure this will have no consequences. Philip Greer's cafe lost $100,000 during the shutdown. He applied to the Restaurant Revitalization Fund set up under the American Rescue Plan. The funds offers to restaurateurs up to $5 million per location to cover losses. But Greer is white. You have to write that. In 2020, you have to write that down. And the law says that for the first 21st days funds are distributed, most white men will have to go to the back of the line, behind women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged applicants. The code there for non-whites. Greer has sued. On May 18th, a federal judge, Reed O'Connor, determined that he is likely to succeed at trial because this is illegal, openly illegal. And the Biden administration just doesn't care.
But they are the law.
They're just going to do what they want. But thankfully, we have some system here which this guy was able to get some access back, because they say that he was likely to succeed at trial and ordered the Small Business Administration to halt its discriminatory practices and considered Greer's application immediately. The judge pointed out the obvious, that the fund's $29 billion would likely be distributed before Greer and other white male applicants made it to the front of the line. Purposely made that way.
Yep.
So they would not get their, let's say, funds to dig them out of the grave that the government has put them in, and instead bury them. Next up is the Justice for Black Farmers Act, quote, to encourage a new generation of black farmers at the cost of $100 billion. Just again, we're going to go full Zimbabwe, redistribute the wealth on racial lines so that we can get racial justice, not food production. That's not important. Racial justice is what's important. Right. 5 Democrats on the Senate Agricultural Committee, including Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock, are behind the measure, which would award 160 acres, a home mortgage, a loan for farming equipment, and agricultural training to 200,000 recipients over 10 years, selling them up to be farmers. The only qualification is a parent of African ancestry. No agricultural experience required.
Yeah. No, that's just lunacy, that is.
But this is the thing. This is how far they are willing to go. They are willing to turn America into Zimbabwe. And thankfully, these court cases are finally making it to the Supreme Court. And hopefully, the good work that Donald Trump did in putting those people there, they will actually do the jobs they are meant to do. And, well, defend the law and the Constitution and say this is illegal. None of this should be allowed. If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to subscribe to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this one, which is an interview with Taras Kobernik by Rory. And if you want to follow Rory and see what he's up to, you can always go on Getter and follow him at Rory Lotus Eaters. Thank you and goodbye.